Just so you know, I'm speaking in English because I'm recording this to support my application for dubbing 3 Blue and Brown videos, a channel that I love and think this will better showcase my capacities. Now, this video could help anybody to change bases, but will be most useful to French students. Indeed, if you're a French student, you may have wondered why we call the matrix that transforms a vector in the basis b prime to the same vector in the basis b change of basis matrix from b to b prime. Should it not be from b prime to b as it is in English notation? Well, although I think it would be logical if it was the case, I recently found the reasoning behind this name. A trivial interrogation, you might say, but that does a good job introducing change of basis, I think. Hop in. So let's take the example of the 2D plane to make it simple. All the points in the plane can be described with two pieces of information, that is, the basis of your choice. So let's say you have two bases, b and b prime, and maybe because b is simpler, you know how to write all the vectors, including the vectors of b prime in that basis b. The basis b prime could be simpler in some other sense. For instance, if you are familiar with diagonalization. I won't get into the details here, but for a certain linear transformation of that space, choosing certain vectors as your basis could make the matrix of that transformation much simpler, that is, agreeable to use. This is what's motivating you to change bases. What we want is a matrix converting any vector written in B, and that means whose information we know, to the same vector in B prime, whose information, its decomposition in B prime, we don't know yet. Unfortunately, what we have is the matrix converting a vector in B prime to the same vector in B. Now, because this is a situation you will find yourself in when resolving exercises, I'm going to continue to explain how we resolve it, that is to say, how we change bases, but you can jump straight to the conclusion to understand why we called the matrix from B to B prime. Back to our problem. I said that what we have is a matrix converting a vector in B prime to the same vector in B. How do we find it? We do it taking advantage of our knowledge of the vectors of B prime written in B. First, let's rename the vectors. Because B is simple, we know k and l as a function of I and j. Here, k is equal to minus I plus 2j, and l is equal to I plus j. Since any vector can always be written in B prime as gamma times k plus delta times l, where gamma and delta are some constants, we represent it by this sum, and k and l can be represented in the basis B. And this makes a matrix product. But the matrix is, as we said, turning B prime into B. To get the matrix and transformation we want, we now have to invert that matrix, which amounts to doing the process in reverse. And that's the point. Why didn't we directly do that? Because we couldn't. When changing bases from B to B prime, you could say we know how to express everything in the language of B, meaning we can write any vector of the space as a combination of vectors of our initial basis B. But we don't speak the language of B prime that we want to learn, meaning specifically to translate from B to B prime. And keep in mind that those are very peculiar languages, where everything can be expressed in terms of only two vectors. In that situation, all that we know is how k and l are related to I and j. And that's enough. Because everything can be expressed in terms of k and l, everything can be brought back to I and j, and then we will do the process in reverse. If I told you professeur in French means teacher, then you can translate back physics teacher to professeur de physique and history teacher to professeur d'histoire. The matrix that encapsulates the way k and l are related to I and j is the one that transforms K and L to I and J, that is, does the way back, and could therefore be seen as a Rosetta Stone. It is the only information we have when trying to go from B to B prime, yet is enough to translate everything. And I think this is why we call it the change of basis matrix from B to B prime. At least in French, but I think this little puzzle helped me translate it to English.